The vast expanse of space stretched before Ryan's viewport, an endless sea of stars punctuated by the occasional distant nebula. He'd been alone for months now, piloting the advanced NASA spacecraft Odyssey on a mission to chart the farthest reaches of known space. The isolation didn't bother him. He'd trained for this his entire career. What did nag at him was the growing sense that despite all their technological advancements, humanity was still just scratching the surface of the universe's mysteries. Ryan's eyes flicked over the ship's instrument panels, monitoring life support systems and fuel levels. Everything was nominal, as it had been for weeks. He was about to settle in for another uneventful shift when a proximity alert blared through the cockpit. "What the hell?" Ryan muttered, fingers flying over the controls. The nav system had picked up a previously uncharted planetary body, and it was big. He adjusted course, bringing the Odyssey into a wide orbit around the newly discovered world. As the planet came into view, Ryan's breath caught in his throat. Two suns blazed in the sky, casting harsh light across an endless sea of sand dunes. The atmosphere readings were coming back as breathable, albeit thin. It was a desert world, seemingly devoid of life, yet something about it called to him. Ryan keyed the ship's communication system. "Houston, this is Odyssey. I've discovered an uncharted planet at coordinates." He rattled off the string of numbers, then continued, "Requesting permission to conduct a surface survey." There was a long pause before Mission Control responded. "Odyssey, this is Houston. Your request is approved. Proceed with caution and maintain regular contact. Good luck, Ryan." A thrill of excitement coursed through him as he guided the ship into the planet's atmosphere. This was what he lived for, the thrill of discovery, of being the first human to set foot on an alien world. As the Odyssey touched down on a vast plain of red sand, Ryan couldn't help but grin. He donned his EVA suit and cycled through the airlock. The first step onto the planet's surface kicked up a small cloud of dust. Ryan planted the American flag, more out of tradition than any real claim to the world. He activated his suit's recording systems and began to narrate. "Surface gravity approximately 0.8 Earth normal. Air is thin but breathable. Twin suns in the sky make for extreme temperature variations. It's currently," he checked a readout, "52 degrees Celsius. No signs of macroscopic life forms or vegetation. Terrain is primarily sand dunes with some rocky outcroppings visible in the distance." Ryan spent the next few hours collecting soil and atmospheric samples, cataloging everything for later analysis back on Earth. He was about to wrap up the initial survey when something on the horizon caught his eye. A glint of metal, out of place among the endless dunes. Curiosity piqued, Ryan trudged across the sand towards the anomaly. As he drew closer, his eyes widened in disbelief. It was unmistakably the wreckage of a spacecraft, but not of human design. The vessel's hull was composed of a shimmering, almost organic-looking material that he'd never encountered before. "Houston," Ryan said, his voice tight with excitement, "I've discovered what appears to be the remains of an alien craft. Repeat, I have found evidence of extraterrestrial technology." He approached the wreckage cautiously, scanning for any signs of radiation or other hazards. The ship had clearly been here for some time, partially buried by the ever-shifting sands. Ryan circled the craft, looking for an entry point. That's when he heard it. A soft whimper, barely audible over the whisper of wind across the dunes. Ryan froze, certain he must have imagined it. But there it was again, unmistakably the sound of a child in distress. Heart pounding, Ryan scrambled over a twisted section of hull. What he saw next would be forever seared into his memory. Huddled in the shadows of the wreckage were two small figures. As his eyes adjusted to the gloom, he realized with a jolt that they weren't human children. Their skin was a pale, ethereal blue. Delicate patterns of swirling lines adorned their faces like intricate tattoos, and their eyes, huge, almond-shaped, and a deep violet color, stared up at him with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. "My God," Ryan breathed. He knelt down slowly, not wanting to frighten the alien children any further. They appeared to be twin girls, no more than 3 or 4 years old by human standards. Their clothing was tattered, and they looked terrified and malnourished. Ryan's training kicked in, overriding his shock. These were living beings in distress, and that made his course of action clear. He keyed his comm again. Houston, we have a situation. I've found survivors. 2 alien children. They appear to be in need of immediate medical attention. Requesting guidance. The silence from mission control stretched on for what felt like an eternity. Ryan knew they must be reeling from this unprecedented discovery. Finally, a response crackled through. Odyssey, this is Houston. Your priority is to ensure the safety and well-being of the survivors. Use your best judgment and stand by for further instructions. Ryan nodded, more to himself than anyone else. He turned back to the alien girls who were watching his every move with wary curiosity. He held out his hands, palms up, in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. It's okay, he said softly. I'm not going to hurt you. My name is Ryan. Can you understand me? The girls tilted their heads in unison, reminding Ryan of curious birds. One of them hesitantly reached out a small blue hand towards him. As their fingertips touched, Ryan felt a strange tingling sensation. Suddenly, a flood of images and emotions washed over him. Fear, hunger, loneliness, and a desperate plea for help. Ryan gasped and stumbled back, breaking the connection. The alien child who had touched him let out a soft coo that somehow conveyed apology. It's all right, Ryan said, recovering his composure. That was unexpected, but I think I understand now. You need help, don't you? Both girls nodded emphatically. Ryan made a decision then and there. Protocol be damned. He couldn't leave these children here to die on this desolate world. Okay, he said, standing up. I'm going to take you somewhere safe. Can you walk? The girls struggled to their feet, but it was clear they were weak from hunger and exposure. Ryan scooped them up, one in each arm. They were surprisingly light, and he could feel their rapid heartbeats against his chest. As Ryan turned to head back to his ship, a gust of wind kicked up a blinding cloud of sand. He instinctively shielded the girls with his body, but when he looked up, he saw with alarm that visibility had dropped to near zero. A sandstorm was brewing, and they were caught right in the middle of it. Hang on tight, Ryan told the girls, though he wasn't sure they understood his words. He activated his suit's heads-up display, using it to navigate back towards the Odyssey. The wind howled around them, pelting Ryan with stinging grains of sand. Just when he thought they were making progress, a monstrous shape loomed out of the storm. Ryan's blood ran cold as he found himself face to face with a creature straight out of a nightmare. It was serpentine, at least 20 feet long, with rows of gleaming teeth and eyes that glowed an eerie green in the gloom. The alien predator let out a bone-chilling shriek and lunged towards them. Ryan dove to the side, still clutching the girls tightly. He scrambled to his feet and ran, heart pounding in his ears. The creature gave chase, its sinuous body undulating across the sand with terrifying speed. Ryan's lungs burned as he pushed himself to the limit. The girls clung to him, their small bodies trembling in fear. Just when he thought all hope was lost, the familiar silhouette of the Odyssey appeared through the swirling sand. With a final burst of speed, Ryan reached the ship's airlock. He slammed his hand on the emergency override, practically falling inside as the outer doors hissed shut behind them. The alien predator crashed against the hull with a resounding boom, but the reinforced metal held firm. As the inner airlock cycled open, Ryan stumbled into the ship's living quarters. He gently set the girls down on his bunk, then collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath. The adrenaline began to fade, leaving him shaky and overwhelmed by what had just transpired. The alien children huddled together on the bed, watching Ryan with those enormous violet eyes. Now that they were in the ship's artificial lighting, he could see them more clearly. Despite their alien features, there was something undeniably childlike and vulnerable about them. Ryan pulled off his helmet and ran a hand through his sweat-soaked hair. Okay, he said, more to himself than the girls. Okay, you're safe now. Let's get you some food and water, and then we'll figure out what to do next. He rummaged through the ship's supplies, finding some nutrient bars and a container of purified water. The girls watched his every move, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and wariness. Ryan approached slowly, holding out the food and water. Here, he said gently, you must be hungry. The twins looked at each other, then back at Ryan. Hesitantly, one of them reached out and took a nutrient bar. She sniffed it cautiously, then took a small bite. Her eyes widened and she quickly devoured the rest. Her sister followed suit, and soon they were both eating and drinking with desperate enthusiasm. As Ryan watched them, a wave of protectiveness washed over him. These children had clearly been through a traumatic ordeal. They were alone on a hostile world, the sole survivors of what must have been a terrible crash. And now, by some twist of fate, their lives were in his hands. He keyed his comm unit again. "Houston, this is Odyssey. The survivors are aboard my ship. They appear to be in stable condition, but I have no way to communicate with them verbally. Please advise on next steps." The response came back almost immediately. "Odyssey, maintain your position and stand by. We're convening an emergency meeting to determine the best course of action. This situation is unprecedented, and we need time to consult with international partners and xenobiologists. In the meantime, ensure the safety and well-being of the survivors to the best of your ability." Ryan acknowledged the order, then turned his attention back to the girls. They had finished eating and were now exploring the ship's living quarters with cautious curiosity. One of them reached out to touch a control panel, and to Ryan's astonishment, the panel lit up with a soft blue glow. "Hey, careful with that," he said, gently guiding her hand away. The girl looked up at him, and suddenly the air around her shimmered. Ryan watched in amazement as several small objects, a stylus, a datapad, even his coffee mug, began to float, suspended in midair. "Incredible," Ryan murmured. It was clear these children possessed abilities far beyond anything he'd ever encountered. The floating objects gently settled back down as the girl's concentration broke, and she gave Ryan a shy smile. Over the next few hours, Ryan did his best to make the alien twins comfortable. He fashioned makeshift beds for them using spare blankets and pillows, and spent time simply sitting with them, trying to establish a sense of trust and safety. As the planet's twin suns began to set, casting the barren landscape in a surreal orange glow, Ryan found himself facing a difficult decision. The girls were clearly intelligent beings, and leaving them on this desolate world seemed unthinkable. But bringing them back to Earth would open up a Pandora's box of ethical, scientific, and potentially diplomatic issues. Ryan looked at the sleeping forms of the alien children. In the short time they'd been aboard, he'd already grown attached to them. Their innocence and vulnerability stirred something deep within him, a protective instinct he hadn't known he possessed. With a deep breath, he made his decision. He would bring them back to Earth. It wouldn't be easy, and he knew he'd face intense scrutiny and questioning. But he couldn't abandon these children to an uncertain fate on a hostile alien world. Ryan sat down at the ship's main console and began to input the coordinates for the long journey home. As the Odyssey's engines hummed to life, he glanced back at the sleeping girls. He didn't know what challenges lay ahead, but he was determined to give these strange, miraculous children a chance at a better life. "Houston," he said, his voice firm with resolve, "this is Odyssey, preparing for departure. I'm bringing them home." As the ship lifted off, leaving behind the desolate planet and its deadly sandstorms, Ryan felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. He knew that his life, and potentially the course of human history, had just changed forever. But looking at the peaceful faces of the alien twins, he knew in his heart that he was doing the right thing. The vastness of space stretched out before them as the Odyssey began its long journey back to Earth. Ryan settled into the pilot's seat, his mind racing with thoughts of the future. He had no idea what awaited them when they returned, but he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For now, his mission was clear: protect these extraordinary children and bring them safely to their new home. As the alien world receded behind them, Ryan allowed himself a small smile. Whatever happened next, he knew that the greatest adventure of his life was just beginning. The Odyssey's return to Earth was met with a mixture of awe, fear, and intense scrutiny. Ryan's decision to bring Neira and Liana home had sparked a global frenzy of scientific curiosity and paranoid speculation. For weeks, he found himself shuttled between debriefings, medical examinations, and tense meetings with government officials. Through it all, Ryan remained steadfast in his determination to protect the alien twins. He fought tirelessly for their rights, arguing that they deserved the same protections and opportunities as any human child. Finally, after months of legal battles and heated debates, Ryan was granted official guardianship of Neira and Liana. As he stood in the newly furnished living room of their suburban home, Ryan felt a wave of relief wash over him. The girls explored their new surroundings with wide-eyed curiosity, their blue skin shimmering in the sunlight streaming through the windows. "Well, this is it," Ryan said, gesturing around the room. "What do you think?" Naira tilted her head, a habit Ryan had come to recognize as her way of processing new information. "Home?" she asked, her grasp of English still limited but improving daily. Ryan nodded, a lump forming in his throat. "That's right. This is our home now." Liana approached, holding up a framed photo she'd found. It showed Ryan in his NASA uniform, standing proudly next to the Odyssey before his fateful mission. "Papa?" she said, pointing at the image. "Yeah, that's me," Ryan replied, kneeling down beside her. "But I like Dad better than Papa, okay?" The twins exchanged a glance, then nodded in unison. "Dad," they repeated, the word filled with a warmth that made Ryan's heart swell. The first few weeks of their new life passed in a whirlwind of activity. Ryan worked tirelessly to create a sense of normalcy for the girls, establishing routines and introducing them to the basics of human society. He marveled at their quick minds and eagerness to learn, even as he grappled with the challenges of raising two alien children in a world that wasn't quite ready for them. As summer drew to a close, Ryan faced his next big hurdle, enrolling the twins in school. He stood in the principal's office of Oakwood Elementary, trying to project an air of confidence he didn't entirely feel. Principal Harriet Simmons peered at him over the rim of her glasses, her expression a mixture of skepticism and poorly concealed fear. "Mr. Anderson, while we appreciate the unique situation you find yourself in, I'm not sure our school is equipped to handle students with such special needs." Ryan leaned forward, his jaw set with determination. "Mrs. Simmons, Naira and Liana are incredibly intelligent and eager to learn. They've made remarkable progress in adapting to life on Earth. All they need is a chance." The principal sighed, shuffling the papers on her desk. "And what about their abilities? We can't have students levitating objects or creating light shows in the middle of class. It would be disruptive, not to mention potentially dangerous." "The girls have been working hard to control their abilities," Ryan countered. "They understand the importance of blending in. And think of the opportunity this presents for the other students. A chance to learn about acceptance and diversity firsthand." Mrs. Simmons didn't look entirely convinced, but she nodded reluctantly. "Very well, Mr. Anderson. We'll give it a try. But I warn you, at the first sign of trouble—" "There won't be," Ryan assured her, hoping he sounded more confident than he felt. The first day of school arrived all too quickly. Ryan knelt in front of Naira and Liana, adjusting their new backpacks and fighting back the urge to keep them home, safe from the potential cruelty of their peers. "Remember what we talked about," he said gently. "Try to fit in as best you can. If anyone gives you trouble, tell your teacher right away. And no using your powers, okay?" The girls nodded solemnly, their violet eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. As they walked towards the school entrance, Ryan couldn't help but notice the stares and whispers from other parents and children. He squared his shoulders, determined not to let it bother him. "Mr. Anderson?" a voice called out. Ryan turned to see a young woman approaching, her warm smile a stark contrast to the wary looks from the other adults. "I'm Karen Lewis, the girls' teacher. I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know how excited I am to have Naira and Liana in my class." Relief flooded through Ryan. "Thank you, Ms. Lewis. That means a lot." Karen knelt down to the twins' eye level. "Hello, girls. I'm so happy to meet you. We're going to have a wonderful year together. I just know it." Naira and Liana exchanged a glance, then smiled shyly at their new teacher. As Karen led them into the school, Ryan felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this could work out. That hope was short-lived. By the end of the first week, it was clear that integrating the twins into normal school life would be far more challenging than Ryan had anticipated. He sat at the kitchen table, head in his hands, as he read through the latest note from Ms. Lewis detailing the day's events. Naira had accidentally levitated a classmate's pencil case when she got excited during a math lesson. Liana's skin had started to glow during story time, casting eerie blue light across the classroom. And both girls were becoming increasingly isolated from their peers, who regarded them with a mixture of fear and fascination. A soft touch on his arm startled Ryan out of his brooding. Liana stood beside him, her expression concerned. "Dad sad?" she asked. Ryan forced a smile. "No, sweetheart. Just thinking. How about we work on your reading before bed?" As the weeks passed, the situation at school deteriorated further. Ryan received daily reports of incidents: children refusing to sit near the twins at lunch, whispered taunts of freaks and aliens in the hallways, and increasingly frustrated teachers struggling to maintain order in classes disrupted by the girls' uncontrolled abilities. One crisp autumn afternoon, Ryan's phone rang as he was leaving work. His heart sank when he saw the school's number on the caller ID. "Mr. Anderson?" It was Karen Lewis, her voice tight with tension. "There's been an incident. You need to come to the school right away." Ryan's mind raced as he sped towards Oakwood Elementary. Had the girls' powers manifested in some catastrophic way? Were they hurt? As he pulled into the parking lot, he saw a crowd of agitated parents gathered near the entrance. Inside, he found Naira and Liana huddled together in the principal's office, looking small and scared. Principal Simmons sat behind her desk, her expression grim. And in the corner, a boy about the twins' age sat with an ice pack pressed to his head, his parents glaring daggers at Ryan. "What happened?" Ryan demanded, moving to stand protectively in front of his daughters. Mrs. Simmons cleared her throat. "It seems there was an altercation on the playground. According to witnesses, this young man," she nodded towards the boy with the ice pack, "was teasing Liana. Naira apparently became upset and, well, she made me fly," the boy burst out, his voice shrill with fear and anger. "She lifted me up in the air and threw me." Ryan turned to Naira, who was trembling slightly. "Is this true?" he asked gently. Naira nodded, her violet eyes filling with tears. "He pushed Liana. Call her ugly alien freak. I got mad. Didn't mean to hurt." The boy's father stepped forward, his face red with fury. "This is unacceptable. Those creatures are a menace. They don't belong here." "Now, Mr. Hoffman," Principal Simmons began. But Ryan cut her off. "My daughters are not creatures," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "They're children. Children who have been relentlessly bullied and ostracized since the moment they set foot in this school. Where was your outrage when your son was tormenting them?" The room erupted into a cacophony of shouting and accusations. Ryan felt a headache building behind his eyes as he tried to defend his girls, while also acknowledging the seriousness of what had happened. In the end, it was Karen Lewis who managed to restore some semblance of calm. She had been silent throughout the confrontation, but now she stepped forward, her voice firm but compassionate. "What happened today was the result of fear and misunderstanding on all sides," she said. "These children, all of them, deserve better from us. Instead of pointing fingers, we need to find a way to move forward that ensures everyone's safety and promotes understanding." Her words seemed to deflate some of the tension in the room. Over the next hour, a tentative plan was hammered out. The twins would receive additional support to help them control their abilities, including one-on-one sessions with Karen. The school would implement a diversity and acceptance program for all students. And Ryan agreed to attend parenting classes specifically designed for guardians of children with special needs. As they left the school, Ryan felt a mix of exhaustion and cautious optimism. He looked down at Naira and Liana, who walked on either side of him, their small blue hands clasped tightly in his. "I'm sorry, Dad," Naira said softly. "We try harder. Be normal." Ryan stopped, kneeling down to look the girls in the eyes. "Listen to me, both of you. You have nothing to be sorry for. You are perfect exactly as you are. It's the rest of the world that needs to catch up." The twins' faces lit up with identical smiles, and for a moment Ryan felt like maybe, just maybe, they could make this work. But as they approached their car, Ryan noticed something that made his blood run cold. A black SUV with tinted windows was parked across the street, its engine idling. As he watched, the vehicle pulled away, but not before Ryan caught a glimpse of a man in a dark suit speaking into a radio. He ushered the girls into the car quickly, his mind racing. This wasn't the first time he'd noticed signs of surveillance in recent weeks. Strange cars parked on their street, occasional clicks on the phone line, the feeling of being watched when they went out in public. As he drove home, Ryan's grip tightened on the steering wheel. The incident at school was bad enough, but this felt like something bigger, something more dangerous. He glanced in the rearview mirror at Naira and Liana, chattering happily in their strange musical language. A fierce wave of protectiveness washed over him. Whatever was going on, whoever was watching them, Ryan knew one thing for certain. He would do whatever it took to keep his girls safe. The next few weeks passed in a blur of parent-teacher conferences, extra tutoring sessions, and tense encounters with other parents. Ryan threw himself into researching techniques for helping children with extraordinary abilities, spending late nights poring over obscure scientific journals and fringe parapsychology texts. Karen Lewis proved to be an invaluable ally. She went above and beyond her duties as a teacher, spending extra time with the twins and advocating for them fiercely in staff meetings. Ryan found himself looking forward to their conversations, drawn to her warmth and unwavering commitment to his girls. One evening, as they sat in the empty classroom after a particularly challenging day, Karen turned to Ryan with a thoughtful expression. "You know, I've been thinking," she said, twirling a pen between her fingers. "Maybe we're approaching this all wrong. Instead of trying to force Naira and Liana to suppress their abilities, what if we found ways to channel them productively?" Ryan raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Karen's eyes lit up with excitement. "Well, take Naira's telekinesis, for example. What if we incorporated it into physical education? She could practice control by manipulating lightweight objects in specific patterns. And Liana's bioluminescence, we could use that in art class, creating living light sculptures." As Karen continued to outline her ideas, Ryan felt a spark of hope ignite in his chest. For the first time in weeks, he allowed himself to imagine a future where his daughters could thrive, not just survive. Their planning session was interrupted by a knock at the classroom door. Ryan tensed, half expecting to see another angry parent or school administrator. Instead, a tall man in a crisp suit stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "Mr. Anderson," the man said, his voice clipped and professional. "I'm Agent Caleb Reeves with the Department of Homeland Security. We need to talk." Ryan's heart raced as he followed Agent Reeves to an empty conference room, leaving Karen to watch over the twins. As they sat down, the agent placed a thick file on the table between them. "Mr. Anderson, I'll be blunt," Reeves began. "Your daughters have become a matter of national security. We've been monitoring your family since your return to Earth, and recent events have raised concerns." Ryan's jaw clenched. "My girls are children, not security threats." Reeves held up a hand. "I understand your position, sir, but surely you can see how their abilities could be perceived as dangerous. And there are other factors at play." "What other factors?" Ryan demanded. The agent hesitated, then opened the file. Inside were grainy surveillance photos, shots of the black SUV Ryan had noticed, but also images of other, stranger figures. Humanoid shapes with elongated limbs and oddly angled features lurking in the shadows near their home. "We believe your daughters may be the target of an extraterrestrial interest group," Reeves said quietly, "possibly related to their origins. Mr. Anderson, we need your cooperation to ensure not only your family's safety, but potentially the safety of our entire planet." Ryan's mind reeled. He'd suspected they were being watched, but this was beyond anything he'd imagined. As the implications sank in, he realized that his fight to give Naira and Liana a normal life had just become infinitely more complicated. "What do you want from us?" he asked, his voice hoarse. Agent Reeves leaned forward, his expression grave. "For now, we need you to continue as you have been, but we'll be increasing our surveillance and protective measures. And Mr. Anderson, be prepared. The day may come when we need to move your family to a more secure location." As Ryan left the conference room, his head spinning with this new information, he caught sight of Naira and Liana through the classroom window. They were laughing as Karen showed them how to make origami cranes, their blue skin glowing softly with happiness. In that moment, Ryan made a silent vow. No matter what forces were arrayed against them, human or alien, he would find a way to give his daughters the life they deserved. The road ahead would be difficult, perhaps even dangerous, but he was ready to face whatever challenges came their way. As he watched the twins, blissfully unaware of the storm gathering around them, Ryan steeled himself for the battles to come. The greatest adventure of his life was no longer just beginning. It was about to enter a whole new chapter. 3 years had passed since Ryan's fateful meeting with Agent Reeves, and life had settled into an uneasy routine. The twins, now 8 years old, had made progress in controlling their abilities, though incidents still occurred. Ryan and Karen's relationship had deepened, their shared commitment to protecting Nera and Liana bringing them closer together. On a crisp autumn evening, Ryan stood in the backyard, watching the girls practice their powers under Karen's watchful eye. Nera lifted small objects with increasing precision, while Liana created intricate patterns of light that danced in the air. The sight filled Ryan with a mixture of pride and apprehension. A sudden gust of wind scattered leaves across the lawn, and with it came a familiar sense of unease. Ryan scanned the perimeter of their property, noting the unmarked van parked down the street, another reminder of the constant surveillance they lived under. "Dad," Nera called out excitedly, "look what I can do now." Ryan turned back to his daughter, forcing a smile. "That's great, Sweeta." His words died in his throat as he saw a shimmering distortion in the air behind the twins. Before he could react, the distortion solidified into a tall, ethereal figure with blue skin and intricate facial markings, unmistakably of the same species as Nera and Liana. "Children of Astria," the figure intoned in a musical voice, "your time of hiding is at an end." Chaos erupted. Karen rushed to shield the girls while Ryan sprinted towards them, but the alien was faster, extending a hand toward the twins. A pulse of energy erupted from its palm, enveloping Nera and Liana in a bubble of shimmering light. "No!" Ryan roared, hurling himself at the barrier. He bounced off, the impact sending him sprawling across the grass. The alien turned its gaze to Ryan, its violet eyes filled with a mixture of pity and resolve. "Fear not, Guardian. The heirs must return to fulfill their destiny. All will be explained." Before Ryan could respond, there was a blinding flash of light. When his vision cleared, the alien and the twins were gone. The next few hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. Agent Reeves and a team of government operatives descended on the house, questioning Ryan and Karen relentlessly. But it was clear they were as blindsided by this development as the shell-shocked parents. As dawn broke, Ryan sat at the kitchen table, his head in his hands. Karen paced nearby, her face pale with worry. "How could this happen?" she whispered. "All the surveillance, all the precautions." Ryan looked up, his eyes red-rimmed but filled with determination. "It doesn't matter. We're getting them back." Agent Reeves, who had been conferring with his team in the living room, entered the kitchen. "Mr. Anderson, Ms. Lewis, we need to talk." Ryan tensed, ready for another round of useless questions. But the agent's next words caught him off guard. "We've received a transmission," Reeves said, his voice tight. Well, you need to see this for yourselves." He produced a tablet and placed it on the table. The screen flickered to life, revealing an image that made Ryan's heart skip a beat. Nera and Liana stood in an ornate chamber, flanked by regal-looking aliens. They appeared unharmed, but their expressions were a mixture of confusion and awe. A dignified alien figure stepped into frame, addressing the camera directly. "People of Earth, I am High Counselor Zara of the Astrian Empire. We apologize for the abrupt manner in which we reclaimed our lost princesses, but time is of the essence. The children you know as Nera and Liana are, in fact, the rightful heirs to our throne." Ryan listened in stunned silence as Zara explained the twins' true heritage. Their parents, the former rulers of Astria, had fled a coup attempt, only to fall victim to ruthless slave traders. In a final act of desperation, they had jettisoned the infant princesses in an escape pod, hoping they would be found by a benevolent species. "We are eternally grateful to the one called Ryan Anderson for saving our heirs," Zara continued, "but now they must return to fulfill their destiny and bring peace to our war-torn empire." As the transmission ended, Ryan's mind raced. The pieces were falling into place. The girls' extraordinary abilities, the constant surveillance, the strange figures lurking in the shadows. But one thing remained crystal clear. He had to get his daughters back. "I'm going after them," Ryan declared, standing up abruptly. Agent Reeves shook his head. "Out of the question. This is now a matter of interstellar diplomacy. We can't risk—" "To hell with diplomacy," Ryan snapped. "Those are my children." Karen laid a hand on his arm, her eyes blazing with the same determination. "Our children, and I'm coming too." Before Reeves could protest further, alarms blared throughout the house. Outside, the sky lit up with an eerie green glow. Ryan rushed to the window, his heart pounding. A massive ship hovered over their neighborhood, its sleek design unlike anything he'd ever seen, even during his NASA days. "Slave traders," Reeves growled, reaching for his weapon. "They must have tracked the Astrian transmission." The next few minutes were a blur of action. As government agents engaged in a firefight with the alien invaders, Ryan and Karen found themselves hustled into a secure underground bunker beneath the house, a precaution Ryan had never known existed. Inside, they found themselves face to face with a familiar figure. Dr. Alara Chen, the xenobiologist who had first examined the twins upon their arrival on Earth. "Dr. Anderson, Miss Lewis," she greeted them briskly. "I'm afraid we don't have much time. The situation has escalated beyond our worst-case scenarios." She led them to a sealed chamber at the back of the bunker. Inside was a sight that made Ryan's jaw drop, a sleek spacecraft, clearly of alien design. "We've been reverse engineering technology from the girls' escape pod," Dr. Chen explained. "This ship is capable of interstellar travel. It's our only hope of reaching Astria before the slave traders do." Ryan's astronaut training kicked in as he examined the vessel. It was leagues beyond anything NASA had ever developed, but the basic principles were familiar. He could fly this. "How long to prep for launch?" he asked, slipping back into mission mode. Dr. Chen smiled grimly. "It's ready now. We've been preparing for this possibility for years." As Ryan and Karen strapped themselves into the cockpit, Agent Reeves appeared at the bunker entrance, his suit singed and torn. "This is against every protocol we have," he growled, "but bring them home safe." Ryan nodded, feeling a newfound respect for the agent. As the bunker roof retracted, revealing a star-filled sky, he took a deep breath. "Ready?" he asked Karen. She gripped his hand tightly. "Let's go get our girls." The ship rocketed into the atmosphere, leaving behind the chaos of the alien invasion. As Earth receded behind them, Ryan focused on the coordinates Dr. Chen had provided. Somewhere across the vast expanse of space, Nera and Liana were waiting. The journey to Astria was fraught with danger. Ryan's piloting skills were pushed to the limit as they navigated asteroid fields and evaded patrolling slave trader ships. Karen proved to be an invaluable co-pilot, her quick thinking saving them more than once. As they approached Astrian space, a massive battle unfolded before them. The slave traders had launched a full-scale invasion, their ships clashing with the Astrian defense fleet in a spectacular firefight. "How are we going to get through that?" Karen gasped. Ryan's eyes narrowed as he assessed the situation. "We're small and fast. If we time it right, we can slip through the chaos." What followed was the most harrowing flight of Ryan's life. He weaved through explosions and debris, narrowly avoiding stray weapons fire. Karen's knuckles were white on the controls, but her voice remained steady as she called out sensor readings. Finally, they broke through the battle lines, the gleaming spires of the Astrian capital visible on the planet below. But their relief was short-lived. A slave trader ship had noticed their approach and was closing fast. "Hang on," Ryan shouted, pushing the ship into a steep dive. They plummeted towards the planet's surface, the slave trader in hot pursuit. At the last possible second, Ryan pulled up, skimming over the tops of crystalline buildings. Their pursuer wasn't so lucky, crashing in a ball of flame. As they sat down in front of the royal palace, Ryan and Karen were immediately surrounded by Astrian guards. But before any confrontation could occur, a familiar voice rang out. "Dad, Karen!" Nera and Liana burst through the crowd, their faces alight with joy. Ryan swept them into his arms, tears streaming down his face. For a moment, the universe fell away, and they were simply a family reunited. The tender moment was interrupted by the arrival of High Counselor Zara, flanked by an entourage of advisors. Her expression was a mixture of awe and consternation. You traversed half the galaxy and braved a war zone. For them? She asked, incredulity evident in her tone. Ryan straightened, keeping a protective arm around the twins. They're my daughters. I'd go to the ends of the universe for them. Zara's expression softened. Perhaps we have misjudged the depth of human bonds. Come, we have much to discuss. And little time. The fate of our world hangs in the balance. Inside the palace, Ryan and Karen learned the full truth of the situation. The Astrian Empire was on the brink of civil war, with various factions vying for control in the power vacuum left by the former ruler's disappearance. The return of the twin heirs was seen as the only hope for reuniting the fragmented society. But they're just children, Karen protested. How can you expect them to rule an empire? An elderly Astrian stepped forward, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. They would not rule alone. I am Theron, the girl's grandfather and former regent. With their return, I can guide them until they come of age. Nera and Liana, who had been listening intently, exchanged a look. In that moment, Ryan saw a wisdom in their eyes that belied their years. They had always been extraordinary, but now he realized just how much. We understand our duty, Nera said solemnly, but Earth is our home too. And Ryan, Dad, is our father. Liana nodded in agreement. We want to help our people, but we can't abandon our life on Earth. There has to be another way. The ensuing debate lasted for hours, punctuated by urgent reports from the ongoing battle above. Ryan and Karen advocated fiercely for the twins' right to choose their own path, while the Astrian Council emphasized the dire need for stability in their empire. Finally, as dawn broke over the crystalline city, a compromise was reached. Nera and Liana would split their time between Earth and Astria, learning both human and Astrian ways. They would be recognized as the rightful heirs, with Theron serving as regent until they came of age. At 18, they would make their final decision about where their future lay. As the details were hammered out, Ryan pulled the girls aside. Are you sure about this? He asked gently. It's a lot of responsibility. The twins smiled, their violet eyes shimmering with a mixture of excitement and determination. We're sure, Dad, Liana said. We can do this, especially with you and Karen helping us. Ryan's heart swelled with pride. They had grown so much in the past 3 years, and he knew they would continue to amaze him. With the agreement in place, attention turned to the immediate threat. Using their combined knowledge of Earth and Astrian technology, Ryan and the Astrian engineers devised a plan to repel the slave traders once and for all. The battle that followed was epic in scale, with Ryan piloting a hybrid craft that incorporated the best of both worlds' technology. Karen coordinated from the ground, her quick thinking and strategic mind proving invaluable. And at the crucial moment, it was Nera and Liana who turned the tide, using their innate connection to Astrian technology to activate an ancient planetary defense system. In the aftermath of their victory, as the people of Astria celebrated in the streets, Ryan found a quiet moment with Karen. Under the light of Astria's 3 moons, he dropped to one knee. I know this isn't exactly the most normal circumstances, he said with a nervous laugh, but these past few years with you, I can't imagine facing whatever comes next without you by my side. Karen Lewis, will you marry me? Karen's eyes welled with happy tears as she pulled him to his feet. Yes, you wonderful, crazy, space-traveling father of alien princesses. Yes, I'll marry you. Their joyful embrace was interrupted by twin squeals of delight as Nera and Liana rushed to join them. As the family hugged and laughed together, Ryan marveled at the journey that had brought them to this point. In the years that followed, their lives settled into a new kind of normal. They split their time between Earth and Astria, with the girls receiving education and training in both worlds. Ryan and Karen's wedding was a grand affair that bridged both cultures, with guests from 2 planets in attendance. Nera and Liana grew into confident young women, equally at ease discussing Earth pop culture and Astrian politics. They formed a close bond with their grandparents, soaking up stories of their birth parents and their heritage. On the twins' 18th birthday, the family gathered in the backyard of their Earth home. As the stars twinkled overhead, Nera and Liana made their long-awaited decision. We've decided, Nera began, her voice steady, that we want to continue as we have been. We'll rule Astria, but we'll do it our way, building bridges between our 2 homes. Liana nodded in agreement. Earth and Astria both have so much to offer each other. We want to be the link that brings them together. Ryan and Karen exchanged proud glances. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them as a family that spanned the stars. As they all turned their gazes to the night sky, Ryan reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. From a desolate desert planet to the throne of an alien empire, it had been an adventure beyond his wildest dreams. But more than that, it had given him the greatest gift of all, a family that transcended the boundaries of worlds. As he stood there, surrounded by the people he loved most in the universe, Ryan knew that the greatest adventure was only just beginning.